We walked the halls of PCA together, learned the focusing approach from Mr. Lee, sang the school song, laughed, cried, and moved on to the next chapter of our lives. But once a lion, always a lion. Thanks for making time to re-engage with your PCA family. We want to know what God is doing in and through your life. I'm Alex Bellamy, class of 2006 and Director of Alumni Relations. Welcome to another episode of our alumni podcast, Life Talk. Today we are here with Jenna Paulette, and she is a graduate of the class of 2007.
You're literally introducing your sister as a graduate.
I know, it's weird. Or alumni, oh my gosh. She's an alumni. She's not a grad. Well, is she?
Well, I graduated.
Yeah, you graduated. She graduated in 2007. She's also my sister.
Yes.
So, Jenna, we're so happy that you're here and that you are going to chat with us for a little bit.
We have half the Paulette kids on here.
We do.
Yes.
Half.
Beautiful.
2 of 4.
Crazy. Yes. Mm-hmm. Jenna, welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Super thrilled.
It's going to be a great conversation. Jenna, what are you doing right now?
Like right this moment or in life?
No, like life. What are you doing in life? Tell us about where you are. Yeah. I mean, it's been quite a bit since you graduated. I feel it too. But there's some life that happened in there, and we just kind of want to talk about it. Tell us your story.
Yep.
Give us your latest updates.
Yes. Okay. So my latest updates are I just had my first child, a little baby girl. Oh. Alex is an actual aunt now.
So excited.
Dog aunt. And yeah, she's precious. Her name's Janie Jones, and she is just the light of our lives. I got married to the love of my life in 2023. We got pregnant in January of 24, and then had our baby girl October 2nd of 2024. And she's just perfect. And we're so very blessed. We live in far West Texas. And last year, especially, I was splitting my time between Nashville and home. And it was a whirlwind. Last year was a lot for me. I signed a record deal. I really didn't expect that I could even get pregnant. Signed a record deal, got pregnant, didn't feel like I could tell the record label that I was pregnant because I just signed my record deal. Told them, they were all really ecstatic for me, but wanted to get my first album out on the label before the baby got there. So I launched that September 6th, along with my clothing brand that's exclusively available at Boot Barn. Both of those things happened September 6th, and then I had my baby October 2nd. So it's been a whirlwind of a last 12 months for me. But it has slowed down a little bit, and I've had time to reflect in the new year, and I'm just so grateful for it all, but also just being very intentional with this time, because I think kids make you realize how quickly time goes and what you want your life to really be about when it's all said and done. And so I think there's been a lot of really good stuff that's happened in the last little bit, and a lot more intention that has been brought to the forefront of my mind.
So Jenna, you would be considered a celebrity, right? You're a country music star. And most people, when they see celebrities, can I just be honest? Like we think your life is easy. But your life hasn't been easy, and it's been a journey for you, right? Yes. And so what do you think God's kind of taught you? I know this last part you shared, and that's super sweet. But before that, what do you think God taught you through some of the difficulties?
Yeah. Well, I think, even ever since my time at PCA, I've felt called to the entertainment industry. Mm-hmm. There's, when you're at PCA, everything that you do, you're taught to be the thing that impacts culture and not the other way around. Because if there's not salt and light in all these different areas that you could find yourself working in, then what are you doing with your life? And so there's been just a constant figuring out of what it looks like to be salt and light. Because for me, people would always ask me, even high school, college, oh, why don't you do Christian music? Why don't you do Christian music? And I just never felt the Lord draw me to that. I felt him pulling me towards country music because of the storytelling aspect of it. And because it's so real, you can really talk through everything, just kind of like David does in the Psalms, and be an example of somebody that does know God and chases after God, but also deals with the issues of life. And people find that to be very approachable, a very easy in for them to start considering God. And now with all of the social media and, ways for people to look into your life, then you can share, things like verses and your testimony and, get on podcasts and talk more deeply about God. And so anyways, I think the whole journey for me has always been a struggle of like, what is that balance, and where could I press in deeper, and where's the Lord calling me to be, and how does my life line up with the Word of God and the message that I want people to get out of, my life and what I do. So I think all of that's been a challenge. And then you also find yourself, working with people that don't believe like you do. And all of that's a line to be walked on. How do you love people well that, are dealing with, everything that the world calls acceptable these days, and do it in a way that makes them want to come to talk to you when they do have issues, and not run from you because they don't think you could jump in their boat with them. And so anyways, that's all been good and a challenge. And good, just like in general, just to be able to walk through that constantly and ask the Lord for wisdom and all of that. And and then just like the energy to keep going, because it is so draining. And I think so much of what I've done has taken long, but I think because of that, there's been a lot of character developed in me in the process, and that I wouldn't trade for anything. And I never felt like I was supposed to be, a TikTok sensation, or even the equivalent of that earlier on would probably have been like American Idol, getting on there, and then overnight, you're on radio tour and you've got a record deal and all of that. It took me 9 years, 8.5 years before I played my Opry debut, 9 years before, I guess same amount of time to get my record deal. I'd had a publishing deal, which is where you write songs for a company. And I got that, 6 years into being in town, 7 years into being in town in Nashville. And, none of it came easy for me ever. I just always felt called. So I never quit. So all of that has been a challenge, because you even go back and you're like, well, God, did I hear you right? And then you'll ask for him to put a fleece, or put dew on the fleece, or not put dew on the fleece, in order to confirm, his hand on you, and God would do something amazing. And then I would be like, okay, Lord, I'm going to hang on just a little bit longer. And he would do more, in just providing a way for me to make a living, singing and writing country music and being an influence on culture. And I don't know, I feel like because of my calling, he has allowed everything to take time. And that's a beautiful thing. I want to be able to tell my daughter one day, hey, not everything that God calls you to do happens immediately. And sometimes it requires you to hold on. And, you think of David waiting to be king, and Joseph, waiting for his appointed time. And all of these things happen for a reason. And all of that time for both of those characters in the Bible created character in them and prepared them for their actual role and for what God wanted them to do.
Yeah.
So
now you mentioned as part of the journey, you mentioned, your debut at the Opry. What is that the highlight? Like, what would you consider your top 2 or 3 things that you've been able to do in your career?
Yeah. I guess signing my record deal has been huge. I mean, that's something like, it's so ominous, I guess. Like you look at it in the future and you're like, well, what will it feel like to sign a record deal? And then you get there and you're like, man, this took forever. And it took everything inside of me to get to this point. And then you sign it and you get a team around you. And I think that is probably the highlight, is just having like management a whole team, radio, artists and rep, like A&R, all of the things that just help you be better. In signing a record deal, I would say that's a huge highlight for me, because everything that you do has more impact because you get a team around you and you don't feel quite so spread thin as you do when you're doing everything on your own, which I did for the majority of my career. And then, the Opry was absolutely incredible. I kind of got to the point where I was like, well, I guess if I don't play the Opry, that'll be okay. You know, like I'm not going to hang my hat on that, especially then, like in the last year, I think traditional country music has made its comeback in a way, you know, with Zach Top, who's label mate of mine. And so I was like, maybe I'm just too traditional for country radio because it was all bro country and, you know, synthetic sounds and all of that. And I just thought, well, that's okay. You know, like they're going through their thing. And if I'm supposed to do it, I'll do it at some point. And honestly, it's like when I let go of, you know, pushing and wanting those things so badly is when a lot of them started happening. And that is a relief because I also felt like I wasn't trying to be anything for anybody anymore. And that was a gift to me as well. Cause it's like, well, now I'm not pretending to be, or not pretending, I guess I'm just not putting anything on. It's just kind of is what it is. And there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. And a lot less like presumptuousness to it, I guess. But yeah, those would be the two things that are, you know, big, you know, goals that have felt like making it. I don't know if you ever feel like you really like made it. But those two things, and then probably signing my publishing deal, because all of those things meant that I could make a living doing it. And it wasn't just a dream anymore. Yeah.
Is there something that you still want to do, right? I know obviously with the record, right, you're going to be putting that out, but is there something, right, that Jenna has in the back of her mind that's like, man, if I ever got a chance to do this, right, it's kind of one of those wild dreams of yours?
Yeah. Goodness. I mean, yes. Okay. So a couple things. One is I would love to open for George Strait. And I don't know how much longer he's going to be touring. So that could be, you know, I don't know if I'll ever get to do it, but him and Reba, I would love to go on tour with them. That would be pretty amazing. And then honestly, I care about, you know, having a number one at radio a little bit, but more so than that, I care about selling tickets at shows. And I think there's a lot of artists these days that can have a number one at country radio and nobody even know who they are.
Yeah.
And you know, they're not selling tickets because people haven't bought into who they are as a person and the story that they represent. And so, I don't know, for me, I guess success would be selling tickets and having a respectable career. And I don't even know if that looks like getting a Grammy nomination. Like, I think, especially now, like, I love the Grammys. It's always been fun to watch growing up. But to me, even looking at that, I'm like, who's voting on that? You know, and what does it even mean anymore? There's just not, I don't know. I would rather see people showing up at shows and just really appreciating what I represent and just enjoying themselves. I think that's success to me at this point. And I love having the clothing brand and all of that stuff. I'd love for that to continue and keep on. So yeah, I guess selling tickets and eventually opening for George Strait would be my two big ticket items that I'd love to see happen.
Are like George and Reba kind of your country music kind of
yes.
idols?
Yeah. Reba, because like she's just the real deal. I mean, both of them because they're the real deal. Our granddad was a cowboy, and I fell in love with the cowboy lifestyle and that way of life because I went with him to our ranch all the time and worked with him and got to see, you know, a guy that, you know, bent over and he had a W on his pockets, you know, just like George Strait did. And I just respected him so much. And I think that translated to George when I would listen to George's music. And, you know, George is just so, I don't know, quintessentially country and pure to me. Like, I just love him. Pure country. And I did not mean for that to all come out together, but yeah, he's just amazing. And then Reba, you know, she's an Okie, and I just respect her so much. She's had so many phases of her career. And as you both know, at PCA, I did musical theater and absolutely loved it. And Reba went on to be in Annie Get Your Gun and lots of TV shows. And I just think she's done it so well as far as like being a seasoned entertainer. And I respect her so much because of that. You know, there's never been a phase of her career where I felt like she was just chasing the popular thing. She was just like, well, I like this song, so I'm going to put it out, you know, or I like this story, I think I'm going to be in this show. And yeah, I just think she's amazing. And that's why she's lasted as long as she has, because she's just done the things that she's felt convicted to do.
Yeah. Now you mentioned it, right? You were involved in musical theater here at PCA.
Yes.
What do you remember about those days? And I mean, Joel Rutherford, Pam Hurt, right?
Yes, they're still there.
They're still here, still pumping out great musicals and shows. So which ones were you in? What do you remember about them?
Yeah, I was in Thoroughly Modern Millie. I was actually in that show twice in 1 year. It was the national musical for high schoolers. And I got the role of Muzzy. And then at PCA, I played Mrs. Mears. And she is the, you know, like, she's got Chinese makeup on, and, you know, she's like the villain of the show. And then Muzzy's kind of the savior. And I got to play both roles in 1 year. That's and crazy. It was so cool. It was so fun. And I just loved it. I loved my experience at PCA, and I fell in love with arts and entertainment at PCA. I went to New York with Mr. Rutherford and Pam Hurt. And when I remember coming up the elevator from the subway to Times Square and just feeling God impress upon my heart that I was called to the entertainment industry. Yeah. And I didn't know what that looked like. And it didn't necessarily feel like Broadway to me. It just felt like that was the industry I was called to be a part of. And I just remember that moment. Like, I remember the shoes I was wearing. They were like these little Converse high heels, which is so funny. But I remember like everything about that moment because it impacted me so much. And I'm just grateful that Prestonwood has always had a heart to, you know, help people figure out what God made them good at, and then be very intentional about it throughout their lives. And and I had a lot of fun.
Now, this was a mini Mester trip, right?
Yeah, it was a mini Mester trip. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I think I went on like 1 or 2 like local mission trips during mini Mester, and then New York was the big trip for me that I got to go on, and my mom went with me, and it was so fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, when you graduated from PCA, I don't remember that. Did you go to college, or did you go straight into? Where'd you go?
I went to Savannah College of Art and Design in Georgia. Okay. Which is so random, but I was in that national musical my senior year where I played Muzzy in Thoroughly Modern Millie, and somebody from Savannah College of Art and Design scouted me for their performing arts program, and he came up to me. I had actually prayed for a full ride scholarship to wherever God wanted me to go. And because my dad, I'm one of 4 kids, and my dad was like, you're going where the money is, wherever that is, or it's community college, like that's your choice. And so I asked the Lord to pay for school wherever I was supposed to go. And the guy that was the music director for the ensemble I was in that paid for school, when I did that last show for the tour that I was on for the musical Thoroughly Modern Millie, David Allen Bunn from Savannah College of Art and Design came up to me afterwards, after that show, and said, "Hey, Jenna, I'd like to offer you a full ride to Savannah College of Art and Design to sing in the 6-member ensemble, the Honeybees." And so I sang in that ensemble. It was 3 guys, 3 girls. I met my best friend, who is still my best friend to this day, in that ensemble, and ended up getting my degree in advertising and graphic design and visual communication. So like a little bit more of a business base than an art base for being at art school. It's like the only BA they offered. And I've applied it to everything that I have done. I mean, I was like, in my classes, I said, I feel called to country music. Can I do, XYZ project, but make it about, the packaging for a CD so that I understand that, or positioning myself in the market, or, storytelling, or can I make this thing about songwriting or whatever. And I just kind of tailored the degree to what the dream was for me, and came home in the summer times and worked with my granddad.
I love it.
So.
Yeah. My wife and I got to go to Savannah this summer. We were kind of over in Atlanta and had to go down to Florida. So it's the first time I'd ever been in Savannah. Trisha loves Savannah. For our one day of being in there, she's like, I could live here. And I'm like,
oh,
okay,
yeah.
easy.
You're like, okay, slow down. It's absolutely beautiful. And I mean, that school, if you know anything about it, is very artsy people. I had never taken an actual art class in my life before going there. Like Alex and Maddie both owned the art department at PCA. Me, not so much. I did my theater and choir and all that good stuff. But when it came to taking a pencil or paintbrush to paper, it was stick figures only. So I did not know what I was doing there at first. And it just kind of became what I needed it to be. And, trusting the Lord and all of that and figuring out what I was supposed to do. I mean, I called my dad. I was like, Dad, what am I doing at art school? And what should I declare my major to be, my sophomore year? Because I had taken so many art classes. And he was like, well, Jenna, what's the closest thing to business? And I was like, a BA in visual communications. And he was like, get that.
Amen.
So that's what I did.
Good advice and good wisdom. Well, I'll say this. You've spent a number of years in Nashville, and obviously, right, living, working, performing and doing your thing. Every once in a while, I would pop up into Nashville for a different conference. And can I just tell you, thank you for always being just a great hostess. It was always great to just connect with you. And then when Maddie was there with both of you, just always a blessing to see you over the years, to watch you grow just as a godly young woman, not just on stage or as a performer, but just as a woman, as a Christian. And it's fun to see just kind of where you are, where God's got you. It hasn't been an easy journey for you, and I'm glad that you have persevered, and just continued to walk humbly and faithfully. And just to see where you are now is just such a, not only a tribute to God's goodness in your life, but really just your genuine faithfulness to just do it the right way, and to make sure that, God stayed at the center of what you did, and you being you're a fighter, and you're persistent, and you're a perseverer and overcomer. And I think a lot of people see you, as a performer, but I see you as a young woman who has fought hard to get where she's at, and is really, really, blessed to be kind of enjoying some of the fruit of your labor, really. And so I just say, bless you. Good job. Way to go.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I mean, I get to see from the other side, just seeing, her day to day, and it really is inspiring. We all four of us kind of joke, about, Jenna never answers her phone. Jenna is always so busy. And, but she is really putting in the work and daily grind. And so it's just inspiring to see. And then we get to enjoy coming and spending time with you. Like all four of us got to come to your Opry debut. That was an incredible moment. Yeah. So we're just really proud of you.
Well, I'll say Jenna was never too busy to text me back. So every time I text Jenna,
I feel like the siblings get the brunt of that, though.
Yeah. I'm like, I'll leave them unread and I'll catch up on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. Now we all share locations, and so like, where is Jenna today?
Yeah, they screenshot it and send it to me, and they're like,
we didn't know you were going this.
Yeah, exactly. What are you doing in California?
Well, hey, let me one last question for me. As alumni are listening, and they're kind of like, they see the name, right? Jenna Paulette, and like, oh, I wonder where Jenna is and what's going on with her. And I appreciate you giving us, an update and just, this last couple of years of your life. What a blessing, and just how God's goodness is just, flowing out of you. What would you say, right, to some of the other alumni, right, that you walk the halls with at PCA, and what would be a word of encouragement to them as they're listening about you and you talking about your life? What words of wisdom would you give them? Yeah,
well, I guess first of all, that God can redeem anything, and that He can put whatever pieces of your life don't feel together that just feel like they're laying there kind of useless, that God can put it all back together and show you his hand in the things that you can't make sense of right now. And also that if you feel called to something and that God has put a burning desire in your heart for it, don't give up. There are good things coming. And if you just keep doing what you need to do on a daily basis, just taking one little step forward, it will all come together. And he didn't put that desire in your heart for it to not be met.
That's
and so, and he's developing character in the process. So allow him to do that good work and trust that he is good and he will see you through.
Yep. God is good all the time. That's awesome. I love it. Jenna, thanks for your time. Alex, any other questions for Jenna?
No, I just want you to send me a picture of that cute baby later.
You got it.
I love it.
We get our daily dose of Janie every now and then. So
that's so good. Well, thank you for your time, and
thank y'all.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Life Talk. I pray that God is doing something amazing in your life, and I want to make sure that we stay connected. Check out the show notes below for more information. Remember, you are loved by a good God. Be blessed and walk in a manner worthy of his calling. Until next time.